Hey there, if you're new, please comment something down below. It would really help me boost my channel. Thank you.
The first time she said it, I was holding a glass of wine that suddenly felt very heavy. Gold digger. She didn't whisper it. She announced it, like she was reading a weather report. Sunny, with a chance of shame. The whole table went quiet for exactly half a second. Then my sister-in-law laughed. Then my husband's brother. Then my husband looked at his plate and said nothing. Nothing. That was the moment. Not the word. The silence after it. The silence that said, "We all think it. We just needed someone brave enough to say it out loud." I set the wine down. I smiled. I said, "Pass the potatoes, please." And I started planning. My name is Claire. I'm 34. I have a master's degree in finance and I make more money than my husband, which is apparently a crime in this family. We met at a conference in Chicago. I was giving a presentation on distressed asset acquisition. He was in the audience taking notes on a napkin because he'd forgotten his laptop. He asked me out by writing his number on that same napkin and sliding it across the bar like a nervous teenager. I called him 3 days later because I liked his handwriting. That's the story we tell. That's the truth. But Patricia, my mother-in-law, had her own version. In her version, I saw a man with a trust fund and a last name on a building downtown. In her version, I calculated net worth before I calculated chemistry. In her version, I was a spider and her son was a fly who couldn't see the web. She'd been telling this version for 3 years. At bridge club, at church, at the grocery store where the cashier asked how her son's new wife was doing, and Patricia said, "Oh, she's doing fine. Shopping's expensive, you know. Someone has to pay for it." I found out because a woman at my gym, someone I'd never met, said, "You're Patricia's daughter-in-law, right? She says you're very determined." She said determined the way people say interesting when they mean ugly. That was Tuesday. The dinner was Saturday. 3 days of knowing everyone in that room had heard the gold digger story. 3 days of wondering if my husband had defended me. 3 days of finding out he hadn't. The dinner was at Patricia's house, a 4-bedroom colonial on Elm Street that she'd lived in for 40 years. The mortgage was paid off in 2019. The property taxes were $8,400 a year. The roof needed replacing. The furnace was from the Clinton administration. The basement flooded every spring. I knew all this because I looked it up. Public records. Free online. Took 12 minutes. I also knew that Patricia's husband, my father-in-law, dead 5 years now, had left her the house and $340,000 in life insurance. I knew she'd burned through that insurance in 4 years. A new car she didn't need, a cruise to Alaska, loans to her other son that never got paid back, a kitchen renovation that cost $67,000 because she insisted on Italian marble, and a contractor who charged Manhattan prices in a suburb of Cleveland. I knew she was 3 months behind on property taxes. I knew there was a lien. I knew the county had sent a notice of foreclosure scheduled for November 14th. I knew all this before I walked through her front door with a bottle of wine that cost $14 and a smile that cost me nothing. "Claire," she said, like we were old friends. "So glad you could make it. We were just talking about you." "Only good things, I hope," I said and kissed her cheek. "Oh, you know me. I call it like I see it." She said this while looking directly at my left hand. At the ring. The ring my husband bought with his own money from his own job that paid him $78,000 a year, which is a good salary unless your mother thinks you should have married a doctor. The dinner went exactly as I expected. The roast beef was dry. The conversation was wet. Slippery. Hard to hold on to. Constantly sliding toward topics that would embarrass me. My sister-in-law asked about my career with air quotes she didn't bother to hide. My brother-in-law asked if I was still working, or if I'd found a hobby yet. My husband talked about his fantasy football team. Then Patricia refilled her wine glass, her third, and said, "You know, I was talking to Barbara at church. She asked about the wedding gift we gave you. The china set. She wanted to know if you were using it." "We are," I said. It's beautiful. Barbara said her daughter-in-law sold her wedding china on eBay. Can you imagine? Some people just see dollar signs everywhere they look. She looked at me over the rim of her glass. Not you, of course. I'm sure you value sentiment over everything else. The table went quiet. I looked at my husband. He was cutting his roast beef into smaller and smaller pieces, like if he made them small enough, they'd disappear entirely. Patricia, I said, that's a lovely necklace. Is it new? She touched her throat. Oh, this? Yes. I treated myself. A woman my age deserves a little sparkle. It's beautiful. Must have cost a pretty penny. Well, a mother only turns 65 once. Twice, actually, I said. If you count the party last year, when you turned 64. But I'm sure that was just a practice run. My sister-in-law choked on her water. Patricia's smile didn't move, but something behind her eyes did. A door closing, a lock clicking. You're funny, she said. I always forget how funny you are. I forget a lot of things too, I said. Like how much that kitchen renovation cost. Italian marble, right? Stunning choice. Really holds its value. The silence this time wasn't half a second. It was a full 10 seconds of nobody breathing. Then my husband said, Claire, I think we should go. Of course, I said. I stood up. I smoothed my dress. I looked at Patricia. Really looked at her. The way you look at a house before you make an offer. Thank you for dinner. The beef was memorable. We drove home in silence. When we got to our apartment, my husband said, You embarrassed me. She called me a gold digger in front of your entire family. She didn't say that. Not tonight. She's been saying it for 3 years. Tonight she just got closer to saying it out loud. She's my mother. And I'm your wife. He went to bed without answering. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I pulled up the county assessor's website. I pulled up the foreclosure notice. I pulled up the tax lien. Then I pulled up my savings account. I had $42,000 in cash. Another $180,000 in investments I could liquidate in 72 hours. My credit score was 798. I had no debt except a car payment that ended in 4 months. I could buy her house at auction. I could pay cash. I could own the roof over her head before she even knew what happened. But that wasn't the plan. That was too easy. Too fast. Too much like the thing she accused me of being. Someone who saw property and pounced. No. I was going to be patient. I was going to be kind. I was going to be so helpful that she'd never see the trap until she was already inside it. The next morning, I made coffee and called my husband's brother, Mark, the one who borrowed $15,000 from Patricia and never paid it back. The one who worked at a car dealership and dressed like he owned a yacht. Mark, I said, it's Claire. I wanted to apologize for last night. I think I had too much wine. You know how family dinners can be. Sure, he said. Mark had the survival instincts of a houseplant. No worries. I was actually hoping to make it up to your mom. I know she's been stressed about the house, taxes and all that. I work in finance, you know. Maybe I could help her look at her options, refinancing, payment plans, that sort of thing. She doesn't need help, Mark said quickly. Too quickly. She's fine. Of course she is. I just thought, since I'm family now. I let the word hang there. Family. The thing she said I was only pretending to be. Well, if she ever wants advice, I'm here. Free of charge. No strings. I hung up. Then I called Patricia's church. I asked for Barbara. When Barbara answered, I said, Hi, this is Claire, Patricia's daughter-in-law. I wanted to thank you for being such a good friend to her. I know she's been going through a hard time with the house and everything. It's so nice that she has people to talk to. Barbara paused. The house? Oh, I'm sure she mentioned it. The tax situation. She's so private, though. I probably shouldn't have said anything. Please don't tell her I called. I just wanted to say thank you for being there for her. I hung up. Then I waited. It took 4 days. On Wednesday, my husband came home from work and said, "My mom wants to have lunch with you. Just you two." "Really?" I said, putting down the book I wasn't reading. "That's so sweet." "When?" "Saturday. That new place on Main Street. I'll wear something nice." He looked at me for a long moment. "Claire, what are you doing?" "I'm having lunch with my mother-in-law." "What do you think I'm doing?" "I think you're doing something. I think you've been doing something since the dinner." I stood up. I walked over to him. I put my hands on his shoulders and looked him in the eyes. The same eyes I'd looked into when he proposed, when he said he wanted to spend his life with me, when he promised to choose me every day. "Your mother told everyone I married you for money," I said. "She laughed about it. Your brother laughed. Your sister laughed. You said nothing. So now I'm going to lunch. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to be helpful. And if you have a problem with that, you can call your mother and tell her to cancel." He didn't call. Of course he didn't. The restaurant was one of those farm-to-table places that charges $18 for a salad. Patricia was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with her back to the wall, like she expected an ambush. "Claire," she said, not standing. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." I sat down. I ordered sparkling water. I didn't open the menu. I wanted to apologize for the other night. I was out of line. The wine, you know. It goes straight to my head. "Does it?" she said. I hadn't noticed. The waiter came. She ordered the salmon. I ordered the beet salad. When he left, she leaned forward. "Claire, I'll be direct. I know you called Barbara. I know you called Mark. I know you've been looking at my financial situation." I was concerned. "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't pretend. I've been alive for 65 years. I know when someone is circling. So tell me what you want." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who'd raised the man I loved. The woman who'd worked double shifts at a department store to put him through private school. The woman who'd buried her husband and kept standing. She was sharp, and she was scared, and she hated me for seeing both things. "I want to help you," I said. "Bullshit." "Fine. I want you to stop telling people I'm a gold digger. I want you to apologize for saying it at the dinner table. I want you to look me in the eye and admit that you don't know the first thing about who I am or what I want." She laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. "And if I don't?" "Then nothing. I don't blackmail people, Patricia. I'm not a villain in one of your stories. I just want to have lunch. I want to understand why you hate me so much." "I don't hate you. You told a stranger at the gym that I was determined. You told your bridge club that I sold wedding gifts. You told your son, my husband, that he should have married his college girlfriend, the one whose father owns a dealership." Her face went pale. "He told you that?" "He didn't have to. I found the email. The one you sent him 3 months before the wedding. Think about your future, honey. Think about what you really want." The salmon arrived. The beet salad arrived. Neither of us touched our food. "I was protecting him," she said quietly. "From what? From me? From someone who loves him? From someone who loves what he can give her?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and bitter and nothing like the polite laugh I'd planned. "Patricia, I make $127,000 a year. Your son makes $78,000. If anyone in this marriage is digging for gold, it's not me. Money isn't everything." "No, it's not. But you seem to think it's the only thing I care about. So let me ask you something. When you were behind on your taxes, 3 months ago, before the lien, why didn't you ask him for help?" She didn't answer. "Because you were ashamed," I said. "Because you spent the insurance money and you didn't want him to know. Because you wanted him to think you were the strong mother who never needed anything. So you hid it. And now you're 3 months from foreclosure, and the only person who knows is the county clerk. How do you know all this?" "Because I looked it up. Because I'm good at finding things that people hide. Because that's my job. I find distressed assets and I figure out if they're worth saving. I reached into my bag. I pulled out a folder. I slid it across the table. That's a payment plan proposal, I said. I worked it out with the county treasurer's office this morning. You pay $2,100 a month for 4 months, the lien gets lifted, the foreclosure gets canceled. The interest is 4%. It's not great, but it's better than losing your house. She stared at the folder like it might bite her. Why? Because you raised a good man. Because he loves you. Because I'm his wife. And that makes you my family, even if you don't want me. And because I stopped. I looked at my hands. Because I know what it feels like to have everyone think the worst of you. To have them look at your clothes and your job and your ambition and decide they know your whole story. I know what that feels like, Patricia. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone, not even you. She didn't touch the folder. She didn't say thank you. But when I stood up to leave, she said, "The salmon is getting cold." "I don't like salmon," I said. "Then why did I order it?" "Because you wanted to seem sophisticated. Because this restaurant is expensive, and you wanted to remind me that you know what good things cost." I put my hand on the back of my chair. The payment plan expires in 14 days. After that, the county moves forward with foreclosure. Do what you want with it. I walked out. I didn't look back. She signed the payment plan. She didn't call to tell me. I found out when I checked the county records the following Monday. The first payment cleared on the 15th. I didn't say anything to my husband. I didn't mention it at the next family dinner, which was quieter than the last one. Patricia didn't call me a gold digger. She didn't call me anything. She just watched me across the table with an expression I couldn't read. November came. The second payment cleared. The third. The fourth. The lien was lifted. The foreclosure was canceled. Patricia kept her house, and I kept waiting. In January, Mark called my husband. He needed $8,000 for a business opportunity. My husband, who had learned nothing from his mother's situation, said he'd think about it. That night, I sat him down. I showed him the county records. I showed him the payment plan. I showed him the lien that had almost cost his mother her home. "Why didn't she tell me?" he asked. "Because she was ashamed. Because she didn't want you to see her as weak. Because she thought if you knew the truth, you'd think less of her." He looked at me for a long time. "Is that why you didn't tell me?" "I was waiting to see if you'd ask. If you'd ever wonder why your mother suddenly stopped talking about money. If you'd ever notice that something changed. Claire, your brother is going to ask for money for the rest of his life. Your mother is going to hide her problems because she thinks love means never needing help. And you..." I stopped. I took a breath. "You are going to keep sitting at that table saying nothing while they tear me apart, because it's easier than standing up." He didn't answer. He went to bed. Again. But the next morning, he called Mark and said no. He called his mother and said, "I know about the house. I'm sorry you didn't feel like you could tell me." He called me at work and said, "I'm sorry. For the dinner. For everything. I'm sorry." It was the first time he'd chosen me. It wouldn't be the last. February. Patricia called me directly. Not through my husband. Not through a family dinner invitation. She called my cell phone. "Claire, it's Patricia." "Hi, Patricia. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay." "That payment plan, the interest, the terms. You negotiated that yourself?" "Yes." "Why? You could have let me lose the house. No one would have known it was you. You could have watched me fail and no one would have blamed you." "Because I'm not the person you think I am." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I need help with something else. The roof. It needs replacing. I got 3 estimates. The lowest is $24,000. I don't have it. The insurance money is gone. My Social Security is $1,800 a month. I can't get a loan with the lien history." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're good at finding solutions. Because you helped me before when you didn't have to. And because She stopped. I heard her take a breath. Because I was wrong about you. I don't say that often. I don't say it easily. But I was wrong. You didn't marry my son for money. You married him despite us. Despite me. And I didn't see that because I didn't want to see it. I didn't say anything. I let the silence sit between us, heavy and real. The roof, she said. Is there a way? A loan program? A grant? Something I don't know about? There might be, I said. Let me look into it. I looked into it. There was a state program for seniors, home repair grants for people over 65 with limited income. The application was 40 pages. The approval process took 4 to 6 months. The maximum grant was $20,000. I filled out the application for her. I gathered the documentation, tax returns, proof of income, the roof estimates, the lien history, letters from her doctor about her mobility issues. The basement stairs were steep and dangerous. A leak could put her in the hospital. I wrote the narrative section, the part where you tell your story and hope someone cares enough to read it. I didn't tell her I was doing it. I just did it. I submitted it on a Tuesday in March. In May, the approval came. $20,000. Not enough for the full roof, but enough to cover the essential repairs and a new furnace. The work was scheduled for June. Patricia called me crying. Actual tears. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You don't have to thank me, I said. You just have to stop telling people I'm a gold digger. That's all I ever wanted. I already did. Months ago. I told Barbara I was wrong. I told the bridge club. I told Mark. She paused. I told my son that I was sorry. That I should have defended you. That I was jealous and scared. And I took it out on you because you were new, and you were strong, and you weren't afraid of me. I held the phone to my ear and looked out the window of my office. The city spread out below me. All those buildings, all those people with their secrets and their fears, and their mothers who couldn't say I love you, so they said something cruel instead. Patricia, I said, do you still have the payment plan paperwork? Yes. Why? Because I need you to look at something. The signature page. The line that says, negotiated by? I never looked at that. I just signed where you told me to sign. Look at it now. I heard papers rustling, then silence, then a sound like someone had dropped the phone. Claire, she whispered. This says the payment plan was negotiated by the property owner. It says I negotiated it myself. There's no mention of you anywhere. That's right. Why? Why would you do that? You could have had credit. You could have told everyone. You could have made me owe you forever. Because I don't want you to owe me. I want you to know me. And I want to know you. The real you. Not the woman who calls people gold diggers at dinner parties. The woman who raised a son brave enough to love someone his mother didn't approve of. The woman who worked double shifts and buried her husband and kept standing. That woman. That's who I want to know. She was crying again. I let her. Some silences need to be filled with tears. The roof was finished in July, the furnace in August. Patricia started calling me once a week. Just to talk, she said, though she never had much to say. She'd ask about work. She'd ask about my husband. She'd ask if I was eating enough, sleeping enough, taking care of myself. In September, she invited us to dinner. Just us. No Mark, no sister-in-law, no audience. She made lasagna, which was better than the roast beef. She told stories about my husband as a child. The time he tried to start a business selling rocks from the driveway. The time he cried at the end of a book about a dog. The time he told her he was going to marry someone smart and kind, and she said, I hope so, honey. I really hope so. I thought I was being protective, she said, pouring me more wine. I thought if I pushed hard enough, you'd go away and he'd find someone safer. Someone who didn't scare me. Do I still scare you? I asked. Every day, she said. But I'm learning that's not a bad thing. October. The leaves were turning. Patricia's house, the Colonial on Elm Street, was worth $410,000 according to the latest assessment. The repairs had increased the value. The neighborhood was improving. A tech company had opened an office nearby, and young professionals were buying the smaller houses, fixing them up, driving prices higher. I got a call from a real estate agent I'd worked with on a previous deal. "That house on Elm," she said. "The owner, Patricia, right? She mentioned you at church, said you helped her with some repairs. Anyway, she's thinking of selling, downsizing," she said. "Wanted to know if I knew anyone who might be interested." "Is she?" I asked. "Thinking of selling?" "She asked me to come by next week. Give her a market analysis." "Why? You interested?" I thought about it. I thought about the basement stairs and the spring floods and the furnace that was new now, but wouldn't be new forever. I thought about Patricia alone in that big house, getting older, the rooms getting emptier, the maintenance getting harder. "Give her the analysis," I said. "But tell her there's a buyer. Cash. No contingencies. Closing in 30 days. "Who?" "Me." The agent was quiet. "Claire, that's your mother-in-law's house." "I know. She's going to think." "I know what she's going to think. That's why I need you to do something for me. Don't tell her it's me. Not yet. Tell her you have a cash buyer who wants to remain anonymous. Tell her the offer is $425,000. Above market. No inspection. She can stay in the house for 6 months after closing, rent-free, while she finds a new place." "Why?" "Because I need to know," I said. "I need to know what she'll do when she thinks the gold digger isn't involved. When she thinks it's just business. I need to know if she'll take the money and run, or if she'll ask questions, or if she'll wonder why someone would be so generous. That's a test." "Yes, it is." Patricia took the offer. She didn't ask questions. She didn't wonder why. She called me the day she signed the purchase agreement. She was excited, breathless, talking about condos and senior communities and finally being free of the maintenance. "I got an amazing offer," she said. "Above market, cash. Can you believe it?" "That's wonderful," I said. "I'm so happy for you. I couldn't have done it without you. The repairs, the grant, you made this possible. You made the house worth something." "You made it worth something, Patricia. I just helped with the paperwork." We closed on November 14th, exactly 1 year after the original foreclosure date. I sat in the title company's office with my lawyer, signing documents under an LLC name I'd created 6 months ago. Patricia sat in another room with her agent, signing her documents, counting her money. We didn't see each other. That was part of the deal. She moved out in April. She found a condo in a senior community. 1 bedroom, elevator, community garden, weekly card games. She loved it. She called me every week from her new place, telling me about her neighbors, her bridge partner, the man down the hall who brought her cookies. In May, I drove to the house on Elm Street. I stood on the sidewalk and looked at it. The new roof, the fresh paint, the garden Patricia had planted in the front yard that was now blooming with tulips. My house. The house I'd bought with cash I'd earned, with money I'd saved, with a credit score I'd built over 15 years of paying bills on time and never missing a payment. I didn't move in. I didn't rent it out. I just maintained it. Mowed the lawn, fixed the gutters, replaced a window that got cracked in a storm. In June, Patricia came to dinner at our apartment. She brought wine, a bottle that cost more than $14. She hugged me when she walked in. She asked about work, about my husband, about the house. "Have you heard from the new owners?" she asked. I sent a letter to the LLC address thanking them. No response. "They're private people," I said. "Must be nice to have that kind of money, to buy a house and not even live in it." "Maybe they're waiting for something." "For what?" "For the right time, for the right reason, for someone they care about to need it." She looked at me, really looked at me, the way I used to look at her across dinner tables. "Claire, The LLC, the anonymous buyer. Was that? My husband walked in from the kitchen with the lasagna. Mom, Claire, dinner's ready. We ate. We talked. Patricia didn't finish her question, and I didn't finish my answer. Some truths need to be served slowly, like a meal you want to last. July. Patricia's 76th birthday. We threw a party at her condo. Small, just family. Mark came. My sister-in-law came. There was cake and candles and Patricia wearing a tiara she'd bought herself. After cake, she stood up. She tapped her wine glass with a fork. I want to say something, she said. A year ago, I thought I was losing everything. My house, my pride, my place in the world. And then, someone helped me. Someone I didn't deserve help from. Someone I'd hurt. Someone I'd called terrible things. She looked at me. The room went quiet. I spent a year wondering why. Why would someone help me after everything I did? Why would someone buy my house for more than it was worth and let me live in it for free? Why would someone send me flowers on Mother's Day with a card that just said, "From someone who knows you"? My husband looked at me. Mark looked at me. Everyone looked at me. Claire, Patricia said. I looked up the LLC. It took me 3 months, but I found it. Claire Holdings, registered in Delaware. 1 member. 1 address. Your office. I didn't say anything. I don't know why you did it, she said. I don't know if it was revenge, to own the house that meant so much to me. I don't know if it was kindness, to give me a way out without shame. I don't know if it was both. I don't know if there's a difference. She walked over to me. She took my hands in hers, dry and warm and trembling slightly. What I know, she said, is that you could have let me fail. You could have bought my house at foreclosure for half the price. You could have told everyone and been the hero and watched me crumble. Instead, you gave me dignity. You gave me time. You gave me a way to leave on my own terms. Patricia. And I know something else. I know that when I called you a gold digger, I was describing myself. I married my husband because he had a steady job and a good name. I stayed in that house because it was my identity, my proof that I'd made it. I dug for gold my whole life, Claire. I just called it something else. Security. Stability. Love. She squeezed my hands. You didn't dig for gold. You built it. Piece by piece. Year by year. With no one handing you anything. And then you used it to save the woman who tried to bury you. She laughed. A wet, broken sound. If that's not the most terrifying, wonderful thing I've ever seen, I don't know what is. I stood up. I hugged her. She smelled like the perfume she'd worn at that first dinner, the one where she called me a gold digger, the one where my husband said nothing, the one where I started planning. I didn't buy your house for revenge, I said into her ear. I bought it because I knew you'd never accept help from me directly, and because I knew that someday you'd need to know that the person you thought was your enemy was actually the only one in the room who saw you. She pulled back. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup, making her look young and old and human all at once. So what happens now? She asked. Do you sell it? Do you move in? Do you... I rent it, I said. To a family. A young couple. She's a teacher. He's a nurse. They have a 2-year-old and another on the way. They couldn't afford this neighborhood otherwise. They'll take care of it. They'll fill it with noise and mess and love. And every month, the rent goes into an account. Your account. For medical expenses, for emergencies, for whatever you need, whenever you need it. She stared at me. You can't. I already did. The paperwork is at your condo, on the kitchen table. All you have to do is sign. Why? Because family isn't about blood, Patricia. It's about who shows up when everyone else walks away. You showed up for your son. You worked double shifts and buried your husband and kept standing. That matters. That counts. And now I'm showing up for you. Not because you earned it. Not because you deserve it. Because that's what family does. Even when it's hard. even when it hurts. Even when the person you're showing up for called you the worst thing they could think of. She hugged me again. Longer this time. My husband joined in, wrapping his arms around both of us. Mark stood awkwardly to the side, holding his cake plate, looking like he'd missed the first act of a play and couldn't figure out the plot. You know, Patricia said, pulling back and wiping her eyes. I always wanted a daughter. You had one, I said. You just didn't recognize her. That was 2 years ago. Patricia lives in her condo. The teacher and the nurse are still in the house on Elm Street. They had their second baby, a girl, and Patricia babysits every Tuesday while they work late shifts. She brings cookies. She tells stories. She calls me every Sunday to complain about her bridge partner cheating and the man down the hall bringing her too many cookies. My husband and I are still married. He still makes less money than me. He still forgets his laptop and takes notes on napkins. He still chooses me every day, even when it's hard, even when his mother calls with another crisis, even when the old patterns try to pull him back to silence. And me? I still work in finance. I still find distressed assets and figure out if they're worth saving. I still make more money than my husband, which still isn't a crime, no matter what anyone says at dinner tables. But I learned something in all of this. Something I didn't know when I sat at Patricia's table with that heavy glass of wine. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's not about watching someone fall and feeling satisfied. Real revenge, the kind that lasts, the kind that changes things, is about building something so strong, so undeniable, so full of grace, that the person who tried to hurt you has no choice but to see who you really are. Patricia called me a gold digger. She told everyone. She laughed. And I responded by buying her house, saving her dignity, funding her future, and giving her a family she didn't know how to ask for. That's not gold digging. That's something else entirely. That's knowing your worth and proving it without saying a word.